Hello everyone, I'm Neha Vashisht. Welcome to ET Markets. Today we have a very special guest on our panel. He doesn't need a big introduction as most of us have seen his video at least some point in our lives. He's an entrepreneur, best-selling author, and a loved content creator. Let's welcome Ankur Warikoo on the panel.
Hi Neha, how are you?
Hi, I'm doing great. Ankur, it is such a pleasure to have you on the platform.
Thank you so much for having me and such a warm introduction. Thanks a lot.
So I have been following you for some time now, and I must say that everything that you share online is so relatable. So before we start our segment, I just want to know where do you get that energy from?
I think the energy genuinely comes from the appreciation that you just shared. There's so many people who, in many ways, DM karke, email karke, or even commenting on the post itself, share that it touched them. This was what they wanted to
Yeah.
hear today. This is what made them feel positive about where the situation is, so on. And that just tells me कि जो मेरे दिमाग में चल रहा है and all
Hmm.
those failures and those incidents and the learnings from that, they are not unique to me. Everybody in some shape and form goes through the same things. It's just one person who tends to speak about them and फिर बाकी लोग उससे
Yeah.
relate कर पाते हैं.
So I want to know when did you start your financial journey and at what age? Did you realize that job वॉब करने से कुछ नहीं होने वाला, business या अपना कुछ करना पड़ेगा?
I'll be very honest, Neha. So I became an entrepreneur in 2009, which was like 14 years back. उस समय में becoming an entrepreneur or a founder or starting up was nearly not as cool as it is today. But I did
Right.
not do it because I thought it will make me rich. I just did it because it
Hmm.
was something that was extremely exciting. It was something which was very, very challenging. I was in a really cushy job, consulting, a lot of good money, a lot of good travel, a lot of good quality work, very smart people to work with. But the lure of starting something and building something from scratch just attracted me to it. My financial investing journey has been very interesting because I often say this, Neha, that all the content that I create around personal finance
Yeah.
comes from a point of mistakes and not expertise. मैंने जिंदगी में
Hmm.
इतनी गलतियां करी हैं अपने पैसे को लेकर that I should not be qualified at all to come on, say, ET markets or even speak or create content on personal finance. So my hope is that people will learn from the mistakes that I've made. I'm not
Hmm.
qualified. I'm nearly not equipped to give any financial advice. I shy away from doing that as well. But I try and teach people about money, things that I wish I knew, because
Yeah.
I made a terrible investor in all of my 20s. I made reasonably good amount of money, but कभी अच्छे से उसको खर्च नहीं किया. Never thought of where should it go. Bought houses when I was way too young. Invested in
Hmm.
startups which were illiquid. Did not think that investing in SIPs is cool enough or smart enough. And today I'm just so wizened because I look at everybody who's been doing it, including my wife. My wife started investing at the age of 20, and she's been compounding for 23 years, and
Oh,
she's
that's
richer than
really
people I
nice.
know. It is insane, Neha. And I wish I was as smart as her, but I'm not. So I'm just trying to create this content to tell people, hey, I made a lot of mistakes, learn from the mistakes I made, and please don't repeat them.
So, moving ahead, I want to understand since you had your own business, how should one approach the world of finance? And आज की डेट में भी बहुत सारे लोग हैं जो बहुत पैसे कमाते हैं, लेकिन उस पैसे को कैसे स्पेंड करना है उनको नहीं पता. They are not that aware or they're not interested. So,
Yeah.
what are some things that helped you in your life to create where you are right now?
That's a good question to ask, Neha. So I often say this, and I genuinely mean it when I say it, कि पैसा डरावनी चीज नहीं है. A lot of people love making money, but they don't really know how to use that money to their advantage. So what they
Yeah.
end up doing is spending that money and spending it on things that are short term. तो phone खरीद लिया, गाड़ी खरीद ली, vacation पे चले गए, अच्छे
Hmm.
कपड़े खरीद लिए, going out and partying, eating out, ordering in, and all of those. Which, by the way, everyone should do. If you've earned
Yeah.
money and you worked hard for it, you absolutely should enjoy life. But as you pointed out very lightly, there are things that you need to plan for. It could be an
Yeah.
unforeseen health emergency. It could be an event where your income stops. It could be a really big expense, maybe a down payment for a home or your kids' education or marriage, or maybe some big thing that you have to do, or planning for your
Hmm.
parents' retirement or your own retirement. So there needs to be a balance between these three. A
Yeah.
good way of doing that, that I often suggest, is just account for your money. If I were to ask anybody on the street कि आप कितना पैसा कमाते हैं, everybody will know that answer. But then I ask,
Hmm.
आपका पैसा कहाँ कहाँ खर्च होता है? Very few people will know that answer. They will know mota mota,
Right.
but they will really not have a count of that. Everyone is obsessed with their salary, but nobody is obsessed with their expenses. Why would
Hmm.
you not want to keep a track of everything that you earned and everything that you spent, to find out how much profit did you actually make as a person? Think of yourself as a
Right.
business. You have that moral responsibility towards yourself to know that answer. So budget. And here's a good rule of budgeting that is often spoken about. Very simple. It's called the 50-30-20 rule. Whatever is your monthly
Hmm.
salary, 50% of that should go towards your needs, zaruratein, things that you have to spend to live your life: rent, EMI, food, electricity, utilities, and so on. 30% towards your wants, आपकी इच्छाएं, your desires. Want a phone? Please buy that phone in that 30%. Want to go out every day? Please do that in the 30%. But that 30% is sacrosanct. And then you set
Yeah.
aside at least 20% that is for the long term. And just invest that money for the long term. Don't try and make shortcut decisions. Don't try and think कि रातों रात पैसा दुगना हो जाएगा. You
Hmm.
give it time and it will happen. For example, the stock market of this country has grown at an average of 13 to 14% every year for the last 2 decades. I have every reason to believe that's going to be the trajectory going forward
Yeah.
as well. May or may not happen, but it looks like it. So, if you were to use that same extrapolation of the past, your money will keep doubling after every 5 years, which means whatever money you put in today, after 20
Hmm.
years, your money will be 8 times of what it was. 8 times, because it would have doubled every 5 years. And that's it. That's all that you need to plan for everything that you need. And this is just the bare minimum that you can get as a return. If you put in into SIPs of other asset classes, then you may make more as well. But the simple approach at a summary level is, please budget your money and know where each of your pennies are going, so that you can enjoy your life and also invest for it in the future.
And do you think that you need to have like tools like SIP and mutual funds to uh, definitely include that on a deliberate basis? Because a lot of people forget to invest. They're like, no,
Right.
I will invest it later when I have more money. But at that time, it doesn't matter because you've already lost the time.
Exactly.
So
So one big
yeah,
mistake that people make, Neha, is the equation in their life is income minus expenses equals savings, which
yeah,
means इस महीने अगर एक्सपेंस ज्यादा हो गया तो मैं इस महीने सेव नहीं करूंगा. अगले 2 महीने मेरे एक्सपेंसेस बहुत ज्यादा हो गए, मैं लोन ले लूंगा उस एक्सपेंस को पूरा करने के लिए, लेकिन मैं तब भी सेव नहीं करूंगा. आई
yeah,
से बी रियली nasty about it. इनकम माइनस सेविंग्स शुड बी योर एक्सपेंस. तो आप उतनी ही
right.
चादर बिछाइए जितने आपके पैर हैं. यही होता है क्या, कि जितनी पैर बिछाइए जितनी आपकी चादर है?
जितनी
सॉरी, उल्टा
जितनी
बोल दिया.
चादर हो उतने ही पैर
हाँ, उतने ही पैर फैलाइए. एंड
फैलाइए.
आप अपने सेविंग्स को सैक्रोसैंट रिस्पेक्ट दीजिए. सो हियर्स अ गुड
हम्म.
वे ऑफ डूइंग दैट. जैसे ही आपकी मंथली तनख्वाह आती है, स्वीप ऑफ ऑलमोस्ट लाइक एन EMI
Yeah.
your savings to the SIP. It's like you have to pay that amount. There is no escaping it. It's like you
Yeah.
don't say, आज expense ज़्यादा हो रहा
Should
है,
I?
बैंक का EMI नहीं pay करेंगे या loan का EMI
Yeah.
pay. You never say that, right? You're always scared that, oh, I have to pay that. Why would you not feel that same level of responsibility towards your savings and your investments as well? So
Yeah.
SIP, I feel, is brilliant because it makes us responsible. It is outside of our control. Of course, we can stop it whenever we want and so on, but
Yeah.
it feels like something that we shouldn't stop, and it just goes away automatically every single month on the same day every month, and it compounds passively. पीछे
Yeah.
चल रहा है, धीरे धीरे बढ़ रहा है. Like, we may not even know what's happening or what's there, because it's mutual funds, it's SIP, it's passive. You don't have to like trade. You don't have to track it every day. You may do it, but
Intentionally.
it's
Yeah.
not a good idea to. Just let it be, and over the long run, you'll see the benefit.
I think for the longest time in my life, I couldn't think beyond FDs. And I was like, not sure, should I even get into markets? And obviously, well, it changed everything ever since I entered the world of business. But then I feel still there is a part, a frugal part of me that still thinks about FDs every single day. So I think that is one habit that we all need to change.
It is. No, and you know what? It's so understandable and it's so relatable because every single one of us in the same age band, more or less, has the same story. कि FDs
Yeah.
इतना अट्रैक्टिव, इतना सिडक्टिव इंस्ट्रूमेंट है जहां कुछ नहीं करना है, प्रिडिक्टेबली पैसे आते रहेंगे, हर साल आपका इंटरेस्ट बढ़ता रहेगा. We don't think about inflation, we don't think about taxes,
Yeah.
we just think of कि पैसा बढ़ रहा है. And of course, it's a great way to protect money, and it certainly
Hmm.
should be used to protect capital that you want. Emergency fund is a great example, or your
Yeah.
parents retirement fund should certainly be most of it in FDs because they are at that age where they should not be taking risks.
Hmm.
But if you're in your 20s, you're in your 30s, you are genuinely making a big mistake by parking all your money in something like a fixed deposit because it's not going
Hmm.
to make your money work for you. Inflation and taxes will eat into the returns. हर साल technically आपका पैसा 1-2% घट रहा है in its value
That's right.
instead of
Exactly.
increasing, and that should not be the way you approach it.
Definitely. So next thing I want to discuss with you is that how do you invest? What do you think works for someone who is not into markets but is interested in wealth creation?
Sure. I'll first talk about where I invest. Almost all of my investments are in equities. I do not have any FD, and I thankfully have never had an FD, much to my amazement. So the split is I have almost 70% of my monthly investments, Neha, going into the
Hmm.
Indian stock market. I have about
Okay.
20% of it going into the US stock market, and I have about 10% of it going into startups, yeah, private investing, because I just am in that ecosystem. So
Hmm.
it's my way of giving back. Not recommended to somebody who does not understand. It's very risky, very illiquid. So certainly not something I would recommend if you're not from the ecosystem. For somebody who does
Okay.
not understand and does not want to understand, is scared of money, scared of investing, the best thing is go for index mutual funds. Index mutual funds. So there are
Hmm.
a lot of indexes in the Indian stock exchanges. What are indexes? There are a combination of stocks and they have a certain characteristic attached to it. For example, the most popular index is called the Nifty 50 index. The Nifty 50 index is a combination of the top 50 companies of India which are publicly listed. So your usual suspects, your
Hmm.
Tata, your Reliance, your HDFCs, and so on. None of these are recommendations, by the way. I'm just sharing names.
All the
Now,
blue
when you
chips.
invest in top 50 companies of India, you kind of have a safety net around it because you know,
Hmm.
yes, some companies may go up, some companies may go down, some companies will have an economic downturn, some companies will prosper. कहीं किसी का GST कुछ खराब हो गया, किसी का GST से benefit हो गया. All of that will happen, but mota mota, they will continue growing because that's like reflective of the Indian economy fundamentally. So if
Right.
you were to invest in, say, a Nifty 50 index mutual fund, you're essentially betting on the top 50 companies of this country which are publicly listed and the growth they will witness in the next few decades. That's a good
Hmm.
way of thinking about it. And the question then in your head is, hey, would you want to invest in that? The way that I think about this, Neha, and it really helped me when I started thinking about this, is when I buy the stocks of, say, the top 50 companies of this country, I am essentially now sitting on my chair, and all the employees of the top 50 companies of this country are now working to make my money grow. Literally, that's the way
Yeah.
that I think about it. And it's fascinating when you think about it because you are a shareholder. You now
Yeah.
own stocks in a company, and that means they have a fiduciary responsibility towards the shareholders to make their capital work. And they'll do everything they can to make that work. Every single day, all the CEOs, their only and only job is increase shareholder wealth creation. And you're one of them. So I love that frame of reference.
That's a
But for
very
anybody who does
interesting
not
reference.
understand it, Index mutual funds is the keyword. Please do your homework and your research, whatever you're comfortable with according to your risk and so on, choose them. But that would be my suggestion, because it's very, very easy to start an SIP on that. They're very low
Yeah.
cost, they're very passive, they don't change very frequently, they're less volatile,
Hmm.
and over a period of time, they have shown to give consistent results.
And also very easy to keep up also, because all these companies are mainstream companies, large caps. So it's easier to keep a check what is happening with the
Exactly.
companies as well.
Exactly.
Okay, so moving forward with our segment, I want to now shift towards your personal, workflow, which has been very interesting. You were the founding CEO of Groupon and Groupon India and Nearby.com. I want to know that what did you learn from your businesses and what made you, go above and beyond when you
Sure.
when you did your business?
There is so much that I learned in there, Neha. I genuinely believe the last decade has been extremely helpful for me from my learning perspective. The first thing that I understood was, how does the Indian consumer actually think? Because you have a very different impression. आप अपने घर में बैठे हुए हैं, आप अपनी दुनिया में हैं, आप अपने जज्बात से चीजों को देखते हैं. But when you start building a business, reality sets in. Here's a good
Yeah.
example. Groupon and Nearby were all about getting great deals at great places, whether it's a restaurant or a spa or a salon. लेकिन हमारे देश में ना, हमारी फितरत है कि दाल में कुछ काला है. That's our natural default. Our natural default is,
Yeah,
ये सच नहीं हो सकता, कुछ तो झोल
definitely.
है. So when you and we used to work really hard. It's like, no, best restaurant से best deal लेके आएंगे, and we would put it out on the side, and people were like, कुछ तो झोल है, कोई तो स्कीम चल रही है जो हमें
Something
नहीं
is
पता है.
wrong.
वो कोने में बिठा देंगे, वो अंधेरे में बिठा देंगे, वो कल का बासी खाना दे देंगे, something or the other, right? So what I realized was, business in India is first and foremost about building trust. It is about building fundamentally trust. And when you look at the best brands in this country, whether it's a Tata, or it's a Maruti, or it's a Fevicol, or it's a Titan, or any of these brands that we love and adore, we fundamentally trust them, really trust them. And that's why we believe in their product beyond the benefits that the product offers. So that's the first lesson that I learned. The second one that I learned was, every business at the end of it is a function of the people that are working to make it happen. आप चाहे जितना भी टेक डाल दें, आप जितने भी फंडिंग रेस कर लें, आप जितना भी कूल ऑफिस बना लें, आप जितनी भी ब्रांडिंग कर लें, इफ पीपल विद इन योर ऑर्गेनाइजेशन आर नॉट ड्रिवन, आर नॉट हैप्पी, आर
Hmm.
नॉट कमिटेड, आर नॉट क्यूरियस, आप कुछ नहीं उखाड़ सकते. Nothing will compensate for that. So that was hard hitting, because I am a very technology and a product kind of person. So I felt everything can be
Hmm.
done through technology, everything can be done through product. But no, people are people. And at the end of it, they are not data points on an Excel sheet. You have to treat them like humans. You have to treat them the way they need to be treated, which is very individual, very personalized. And that is when they
Yeah.
show up to do their best. And that was a big, big revelation. And the third thing about the business is, this is something that I'd learned in college, but I really didn't pay as much attention to it. The moral responsibility of a business at the end of everything is just one: to make profits. Everything else is nonsense, it's noise.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I belong to that startup ecosystem where profits is something जो बाद में देख लेंगे. Valuations, right?
Yeah.
Unicorn बनना है, कितनी funding उठा रहे हो आप, and all of those things. And I did admittedly get caught up in that race as well. I also started chasing valuations. I also started chasing funding. I also started chasing that entire showbiz around it. But I realized at the end of it, nothing is important for a business than generating profits. It's your moral responsibility to do that. And that's why after 4 years of starting Nearby in 2019, when we became profitable for the first time, and we knew that
Hmm.
this was now self-sustaining and we didn't depend on any other external capital to make us survive, I felt that my time was up and I had done my due bit, and I'd gotten the child that in some way I'd given birth to a point where they could take care of themselves. And that's when I decided to step down as the CEO of Nearby at the end of 2019. And I didn't know what I would be doing, but here I am.
Well, I you didn't know, but you made it, and you made it even more bigger than you were earlier. So I must say that. I want to talk about your LinkedIn posts. Okay, so you shared a story about your father on LinkedIn where you spoke about his one life decision that altered everything for you and your family, and it was about his job with Renbaxi, right? So most people don't share about failures, and what makes you comfortable enough to share these things so effortlessly on the social media, and not just about your failures but even your family's failures also.
I think the big thing that allows me to do that is that I truly know, or I think I truly know myself. I know who I am. I'm very self-aware. I know what I'm good at. I know what I'm not good at. And that is why it becomes very easy for me to admit something that I've done wrong, because for me it's a fact. It's not
Hmm.
posturing exercise. So if you really think about it, the reason why we don't end up sharing our failures is because we worry about how people will perceive us. So we place
Yeah.
a certain level of importance on what people's impression of us is. But if you have an impression of yourself that is based on facts and that is rock solid in your own head, it may not matter as much what people think of you. And that's
Hmm.
the mindset I am in. it's it sounds really awesome to be, but it's taken a lot of effort and a lot of time to get to this point. I'm 43, so I know for a fact I was not this person when I was in my 20s. I used to care a lot about how people thought of me. I used to be the one
Hmm.
who would try to please everyone. I used to be the one who would be like, no, I want people to love me, like me, and all of those things. But slowly, you just realize that that's just chasing something that's not in your control. And there is
Yeah.
so much that you can learn just on your own. So that shift has happened over years, and I'm glad it's happened, because it's a good space and age and experience combination to create content. If I was creating content at 23, I would be miserable sharing that
Definitely,
failure.
yeah.
I would be like, oh, cool लगेगा, लोग तालियां बजाएंगे, but मन ही मन में डर लग रहा होगा कि लोग जज करेंगे, अरे देखो कैसे परिवार से है या कैसे खुद गलतियां कर दी, and so on. But today
Hmm.
I know that none of that matters to me.
I want to understand that जब आपने अपनी कंटेंट क्रिएशन की जर्नी स्टार्ट की थी, तो डिड यू थिंक कि मैं इसको करूँ ना करूँ, बिकॉज़ अ लॉट ऑफ पीपल have a lot of knowledge but not everybody can make it. So what do you think about that?
I think you've put it so wonderfully that the biggest challenge in creating content is not that you don't know anything. It's the fact that you think it's not good enough, that you think it's
Hmm.
not worthy enough, you think it's not valuable enough. So the number of people, Neha, who reach out to me and like, no, I am thinking of creating content on LinkedIn or on Instagram or on YouTube or any place else, but then I'm like, क्या फर्क पड़ता है, ये तो बहुत ऑब्वियस सी चीज है, सबको तो पता ही होगा.
Hmm.
And I was like, नहीं पता है सबको. What is obvious to you is not obvious to everyone else. And there is
Exactly.
very hard a journey to undertake to abstract yourself from what you know and how it is genuinely helpful for somebody who's not at the same place as you are in life. So it took effort, and I've been creating content for a really long while. It, of course,
Yeah.
blew up during COVID and so on. So over the years, I got more and more used to the fact that what I know helps some people and they can see why it helps them. And so my job
Hmm.
is to just keep trying to help and hopefully keep getting that feedback that it's still helpful. And as long as that loop completes itself, I'm in it.
I want to talk about wealth creation now. So what would you suggest to people who are trying to make money और जो कुछ बनना चाहते हैं लाइफ में, जिनके पास सपोर्ट नहीं है, उन्हें कैसे शुरुआत करनी चाहिए अपने करियर में?
सबसे पहले, there are three stages to wealth creation. One is protection. You need to ensure कि जितना भी पैसा आपके पास है वो किसी अनफोर्सीन इवेंट में गायब ना हो जाए या खर्च ना हो जाए. सो देयर आर
Hmm.
थ्री पार्ट्स टू प्रोटेक्शन. एक इमरजेंसी फंड, कि खुदा ना खास्ता अगर आपकी इनकम बंद हो जाए तो आपके पास महीने चलाने का खर्चा होना चाहिए. आइडियली 6 महीने का, सॉरी, कम से कम 6 महीने का, और आइडियली 12 महीने का. तो ये एक इमरजेंसी फंड होता है जो आप हमेशा पार्क करके रखते हैं. दूसरा, हेल्थ इंश्योरेंस. कभी भी इस पे कॉम्प्रोमाइज मत करिएगा. कोविड हैज टॉट दिस द हार्श वे दैट
Yeah.
medical expenses can instantly deplete all of your savings. So health insurance for you, your family, and your parents. And third is life insurance, that in the unfortunate event of your demise, your family should not have to financially suffer. So please get life insurance for the earning member of the family or all earning members of the family. Ye step one hai, which is protection. Step two is budgeting. And budgeting means, जैसे मैंने पहले भी बताया, please know
Hmm.
where your money is going. And I'm not asking you to give away all joys of your life to plan for some future in the फार आउट फ्यूचर, जहां दांत भी नहीं है, दिमाग भी नहीं है, हाथ पैर नहीं चल रहे हैं, लेकिन हम करोड़पति बन चुके हैं. ऐसी जिंदगी का क्या फायदा. आप प्लीज अभी की जिंदगी भी एंजॉय करिए, लेकिन एक बजट में. आगे के लिए भी प्लान करिए बजट में. एंड थर्ड, डोंट टेक unnecessary risks with your money. The biggest mistake people make is
Hmm.
the need or the desire to get rich fast. There is
Yeah.
nothing as getting rich fast. It's just luck. It's like lottery. अगर आप लॉटरी जीत गए तो हाँ, आप रातों रात अमीर बन जाएंगे, लेकिन वो जितनी जल्दी पैसा आया उतनी जल्दी उड़ भी जाएगा, because you didn't get that discipline of how to earn it in the first place. So you have to be patient with it. And that doesn't mean that you're giving away your life, as I said. It certainly means that at one point of time, when you have a family, you have done enough work, and you are genuinely well settled, and you understand what is important for you, you also then have the money to spend it on those things that are important for you and not spend it on random things. These will be the three steps that I would take: protection, budgeting, and patience. Start. It's not as scary as it sounds. It's really possible, and so many people have done it for you to know that it works for everybody.
What was your experience writing your books?
It, writing is something that I have enjoyed a lot, Neha, and I've been writing for almost 20 plus years now. So the book was actually not that hard. It wasn't even joyful. It was just something that I do. So वो किताब
Hmm.
बन गई. And the way the book has been written, the first one, Do Epic Shit, which is right here, is it's not even like a book. It has no start, it has no finish. Every page is like a page of its own. You can open up any page, read, close it, and you would have read something and taken away something. So it was written for a world which doesn't read as much, unfortunately, would like to read, but doesn't know how to finish a book. So it was meant for a light read that doesn't put pressure on you to complete it. And
Yeah.
thankfully, it worked.
Just one last thing I want to know is that what are the three tips that you would like to share with the viewers for better management, life for life in general?
It's, it's very, very broad, because then I can go on and on. But there are three things that I wish somebody had told me when I was in my 20s. And that's the same thing I'll tell you. Number one is, please spend time with people who are very different from you. It's very easy to spend time with people who are like you, because they are your friends. They like what you're saying. They like what you wear. They like how you look. They like what you eat, and blah, blah, blah. But you will never learn anything really new from people who are like you. Spend time with people who are nothing like you as well, so that you get to learn about things in the world that you did not know of. उनसे दूर मत भागिए, उनके साथ भी वक्त बिताइए. Number two, don't complain in life. Complaining is something that's very natural to people. And think about the last 24 hours, and कितनी बार हमने रैंडम चीजों के लिए कंप्लेन करी होगी कि
Hmm.
बारिश बहुत हो रही है, गर्मी बहुत है, ऑफिस में एसी बहुत तेज है, इंटरनेट स्लो चल रहा है, स्पीड नहीं आ रही है, जोमेटो स्विगी लेट हो चुका है, कुछ हो गया. लाइक वी कॉन्स्टेंटली जस्ट कंप्लेनिंग and complaining about choti choti cheezein. Now you would ask, how does it matter? It matters because when you complain, you're essentially signaling to the universe कि जो मुझे करना था मैंने कर लिया है, अब किसी और की गलती है. So you are
Hmm.
absolving yourself of any responsibility, and that mindset doesn't give you an ownership mindset. It makes you feel like आप victim है, कि लोग आपकी जिंदगी बर्बाद करने के लिए रोज सुबह उठते हैं, और जब तक आपकी जिंदगी बर्बाद नहीं हो जाती तब तक सोते नहीं है. Which is not true. किसी को आपकी जिंदगी के बारे में कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता. वो बेचारों की अपनी जिंदगी में इतनी तकलीफें हैं.
Yeah.
So don't have that victim mindset and complain. And number three, don't get comfortable in life. इस दुनिया का अभी स्ट्रक्चर है कंफर्ट. एवरीथिंग दैट वी वांट इज एट द स्पीड ऑफ थॉट डिलीवर्ड टू यू. आपको किताबें चाहिए, क्लिक. आपको कपड़े चाहिए, क्लिक. आपको टैक्सी चाहिए, क्लिक. मूवीज चाहिए, क्लिक. जो कुछ भी चाहिए,
Hmm.
अवेलेबल. सो इट ट्रिक्स यू इनटू बिलीविंग कि जिंदगी का मकसद इज टू मेक लाइफ कंफर्टेबल. But the reality is that everyone that we look up to, that we would want to be, that we are inspired by, they are picking up the path of discomfort every day. Not discomfort in terms
Yeah,
of physical discomfort, but mentally challenging themselves. They're not saying सबसे आसान चीज मैं क्या कर सकता हूं आज. They're actually saying ऐसी कौन सी
exactly.
चीज है जिसको करने में मुझे डर लगता है, लेकिन मुझे ये भी पता है क्योंकि एक बहुत फेमस एड ने बताया था कि डर के आगे जीत है. तो मुझे इस डर को सामने अपने रख के उसके ऊपर जीत हासिल
Exactly.
करनी है, बिकॉज उसके बियॉन्ड देयर इज समथिंग दैट आई वांट इन लाइफ, एंड दैट level of discomfort drives them. So these will be the three life lessons that I would share at a broad level.
Thank you so much, Ankur, for joining us on ET Markets live stream and talking about everything related to financial literacy and your experiences as well.